Snowflakes fell like tiny diamonds against the dimly lit city, the streets wrapped in a soft hush that only Christmas Eve could bring. The sound of carolers faintly echoed from the corner, but inside the cafe, one man sat alone at a corner table, his gaze fixed on the empty chair across from him. The clock struck 8:30. She was late. Again, he reminded himself that this was only a favor for a friend, a blind date he never planned to attend. But something in him, something unexplainable, told him to wait just a little longer. That man was Ethan Cole, the CEO of one of the biggest real estate companies in the city. Known for his ruthless precision and cold demeanor, he was not the kind of man who waited for anyone. And yet, tonight was different. As the snow thickened outside, he checked his watch again. 40 minutes had passed. "This is ridiculous," he muttered under his breath. But when he looked up at the window, seeing the way the Christmas lights danced across the glass, a memory stirred. One of his mother, years ago, waiting at a diner for his father, who never showed. He remembered the sadness in her eyes, the disappointment masked with a trembling smile, and for some reason he couldn't bring himself to leave. Across the city, Emma Hayes was running, her boots slipping on icy sidewalks, her breath coming in sharp bursts. She clutched her coat tightly around her, one hand gripping a small paper bag that held a single gingerbread cookie. The only Christmas treat she could afford for her 6-year-old son, Noah. She'd promised him she'd be home early tonight. Promised she'd make it in time to hang the last ornament on their tiny second-hand tree. But when her friend convinced her to go on this blind date, "Just try, Emma. You deserve to be happy again," she hesitated, then reluctantly agreed. Yet between a late babysitter, bus delays, and a spilled cup of cocoa on her only decent dress, time had slipped away like snow melting in her palm. Now she was almost an hour late. Her heart sank. He's probably gone already. When Emma finally pushed open the cafe door, the warm air and scent of cinnamon wrapped around her. She scanned the tables, her cheeks flushed with cold and embarrassment. Then she saw him. Impeccably dressed, sharp jawline, and piercing eyes that caught hers immediately. "I'm so sorry," she blurted, breathless. "The bus, then the sitter, and I—" Ethan stood slowly, his expression unreadable. For a moment, she thought he might just walk out. But instead, he simply said, "You made it." That simple phrase broke something inside her, a wall she didn't realize she'd built. She gave a shy, apologetic smile and sat down, clutching the paper bag in her lap. Their first moments were awkward, filled with small talk that felt forced. Ethan, though polite, was guarded. Emma, still frazzled, couldn't help but feel out of place sitting across from a man whose watch alone probably cost more than her rent. But as the minutes passed, something shifted. He asked about her son. She spoke of Noah, his laughter, his dreams of being an astronaut, his love for hot chocolate with too many marshmallows. She apologized for rambling, but Ethan just listened, really listened. "You're doing it all on your own?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "Yeah, it's not easy, but he's my whole world," something in Ethan softened. For years, he'd lived in a world where success meant power and emotions were a liability. But listening to her, the warmth in her voice, the strength in her struggle, he felt something stir. Something real. By the time they finished dessert, the cafe was nearly empty. Emma glanced at the clock and gasped. "Oh no, Noah's waiting." "I should go." Ethan rose with her. "Let me drive you." She hesitated, then nodded, too tired to refuse. The car ride was quiet but comfortable. When they reached her small apartment building, she thanked him. But as she opened the door, Noah's face appeared at the window, sleepy-eyed but smiling, holding the gingerbread cookie she'd left earlier. Ethan watched the scene, the warmth between mother and son tugging at something deep inside him. Before she went inside, she turned back and said softly, "Thank you for waiting. Most people wouldn't have." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe some things are worth waiting for." That night, as she tucked Noah in and he whispered, "Mommy, did you make a new friend?" She smiled. "Maybe I did." And in his penthouse, Ethan found himself staring at the small gingerbread cookie she'd left behind by mistake. a reminder that even the loneliest nights could hold a spark of something unexpected. A week passed. Life returned to its usual rhythm, meetings, deadlines, and late nights for Ethan. Early mornings, rushed lunches, and bedtime stories for Emma. But neither could shake the memory of that evening. Then, on New Year's Eve, a call came. Emma's workplace, a small bakery she depended on, was closing down. She sat at the table staring at the eviction notice that had arrived that same day. Everything she'd built to keep her son safe was crumbling. That night, as fireworks echoed in the distance, she whispered to herself, "I just need one more chance." Meanwhile, Ethan was at a lavish company party, surrounded by champagne and hollow laughter. But even in that crowd, his mind wasn't there. He found himself scrolling through his contacts, stopping at her name. He hesitated, then dialed. "Emma? I don't know why I'm calling. I just wanted to wish you a Happy New Year." Her voice cracked slightly. "Thank you, Ethan. I needed that." Days later, she arrived at his office unexpectedly, not for a date, but to deliver pastries for a client meeting, one of her last jobs before the bakery shut down. When their eyes met again, it felt like time hadn't passed at all. Ethan noticed how tired she looked, how she tried to hide her worry behind a polite smile. Without thinking, he said, "Come work here. I'm opening a new cafe chain. I could use someone with your heart." She froze. "Ethan, I can't take charity." "It's not charity," he replied firmly. "It's faith." Weeks turned into months. Emma worked harder than anyone, her ideas turning his cafe project into a community success. Somewhere between morning coffees and late-night planning, laughter began to replace loneliness. But when a rumor spread that Ethan was dating his employee, Emma panicked. She quit quietly, leaving behind only a note. "Thank you for believing in me." Ethan was furious, not at her, but at himself. He'd let fear and reputation come between something real. On the next Christmas Eve, he returned to the same cafe where they first met, sitting at the same corner table. Outside, snow fell just as it had before. Then the door opened. Emma stepped in, her hair dusted with snow, holding a small paper bag. "I thought you might still be waiting," she said softly. Ethan stood, a rare smile breaking across his face. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't come." She laughed through tears. "I'm just a little late." And as the world outside shimmered in lights and snow, he reached across the table, took her hand, and said, "This time, I'm not letting you go. Their story wasn't perfect. Life rarely is, but it was real. Two broken hearts finding warmth on a cold Christmas night. And sometimes that's all love really needs. Someone who waits, even when the world tells them not to." Would you like me to make this story more romantically dramatic and cinematic, for voiceover narration and emotional pacing in a 100-minute YouTube script? Or more realistic and subtle, like a heartfelt short film with grounded emotion,